Hello and welcome to another edition of The Nation This Week. I'm Jared Ratnam. In this edition, we'll be discussing trending important issues that have gone on throughout the week. Joining me in the studio, firstly, is our usual suspect, Nordin Abdullah. And this new face you see here is Kishan Jasani, the country CEO of Thornton. Welcome to your first edition of The Nation This Week.
Thank you for having me.
Guys, it's been a big week. Lots happening. The government's going to be celebrating 1 year of the unity government. That's going to be happening Sunday. It's a big celebration. It's a 3-day celebration. But I'd like to start with this 1 year of the unity government. It's an article in The Star written by a good friend of all of us, Daniel Rahman. He talks about patience, pragmatism, and prospects. So basically what it's talking about is patience in political assessment. So his story encourages patience in evaluating the unity government's performance, likening it to historical examples where success took time to materialize. So he also says it talks about premature judgments may shape perceptions rather than reflect genuine concerns, or at least that's what he's saying. Then he goes on to talk about pragmatic governance, future recommendations. The thing I like about this article is the fact that Daniel took time to sit and see what needs to be written about. A lot of people are writing articles now and saying nice things about the government, and it's the easiest thing to do. But you have to be a bit critical about where the government is at this point. And while we're reflecting 1 year of the government, a lot of people are talking about what's going to happen next year. Next year, it's time to work. Do you think that's even possible? To say 1 year's down, next year it's time to work. This is not a football team we're talking about. We're talking about a country, Kishan.
I think it's, yes, preconceived judgments and notions will always be there. But I feel that at the same time, the government comes into power, they should start working, and you've got 1 year in. And I feel that a lot of it they've already put in the building blocks. We talked about the recent budget that we've had. They've also had the previous budget. We're talking about the recent prudent fiscal bill, and also the notions over there. I mean, you come out with, and you see the Prime Minister coming out with new statements, coming in, trying to attract new investments coming in, trying to attract new policies coming in. You see his ministers trying to work out through. But this is only the start. And I feel more can be done. It's nothing wrong. It's not wrong to be critical or to question what the government has done. This is a democracy after all. But at the same time also, credit given where credit's due. And I feel like the government has done the right steps to take it on further. But I mean, we've got 4 more years. What else can be done and what more can be done? I mean, that's yet to see.
Noted?
Well, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. Kuala Lumpur was not either. But I think one of the things we've got to think about is there's a reason why you get 5-year terms. It takes a little bit of time to get things going. Having said that, I was with a government department this morning. Meeting started early. Everyone was there on time. Everyone was dressed appropriate, and things were moving. So I don't think everyone's talking about the planning aspects, but actually the government apparatus, and you've got the political messaging that comes out, but the government apparatus has never stopped working, and I think that's one thing that we've got to remember in terms of change. And everyone says, oh, I want to see change, I want to see change. Actually, rapid change is actually a little bit of a concern for business. You want manage change within proper timelines, and that's a little bit harder to expect as opposed to the time it takes to pick up your phone and whip out a tweet.
So while we're talking about that too, as you hang out with the expat crowd a lot, you talk to them, you hear what their grouses are with regards to living the country, but having said that, in this past year apparently we've seen more foreign investments. I don't know. We are also recognizing areas of concern such as policy amendments and citizenship laws, something you are interested in. Let's talk about foreign investments coming to the country. Do you think, is it substantial enough?
I think it's definitely an improvement from prior years. We've said that, I think very recently, MIDA came out with a statement to say that they've attracted 250 billion ringgit worth of investments. You've got 50,000 jobs created. So they have done a good job. But I feel that more can be done. When you compare us, the figures sound great, 250 billion ringgit, but you compare to the likes of, say, Vietnam or Indonesia, and they're actively going out there seeking investments coming out. And, it's not only the investments that are coming in from, say, a manufacturing space, in terms of the services space. You see a lot of investments coming in. Our biggest investor was the Netherlands, followed by Singapore. We are now known as the Silicon of the East in Penang. More can be done. And I would urge the government, as you said, the government apparatus is there. It's the stone, it's a holding block of the country.
Right.
More can be done, and more aggressively to attract more investments coming in.
More can be done and more aggressively. I think we'll seg to what you want to talk about shortly. But Nordin, you want to just jump in on what he said?
Well, this is one of the things. Of course, I also represent the Malaysia-Australia Business Council, and one of the things that we often do is engage with agencies like MITI, MIDA, and MATRADE to ensure that our investors who have come into the country, one, they're already here. How do we get them to further their investments and continue to invest in Malaysia? And I think one of the areas that hasn't been announced is some of those additional investments that existing investors have already put in place. So it shows that there's for those who are here, who have experienced being here, they're saying, okay, we will invest more. So actually, there's one thing, you get a new customer in a sense, as Malaysia, you got a new investor, but hey, what are your existing customers doing? So I think there's some nuanced messaging that could go out, which would help the government, build the confidence. And after all, what is an economy? It's just, millions of people being confident about spending money.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Very quickly, we're going to move to Kishan's first topic. Local economic sentiment in Malaysia is improving, and what can be done to improve the business ecosystem. So you picked this topic. You want to talk about this. What's interesting in this?
Okay, so based on our recent Thornton International Business Report survey, we realized that the Malaysian economy, confidence is growing. The economy is improving, confidence is growing. The recent PMI data that came out showed some improvements to our manufacturing. We've got more FDIs coming in, more DDIs coming in. It's an interesting note to make that thing to note that 56% of our investments coming in are foreign, 45% are DDIs, domestic guys. So it shows that both foreign and domestic players are coming in. High employment rates, and I think a lot of them are saying that, look, we are more confident with with the government coming in place for the last 1 year. But what we should be looking at is that when you compare ourselves to the likes of, say, the global bodies, we are clearly in the cusp of between a big trade war between China or between Russia and the US. And Malaysia has always been very adept in kind of playing the neutral party. We are saying that we are not on either side. We are a very important part of the supply chain. We are in the middle of the Malacca Straits. So we should go out there, we should get get those investments out. And I think the one thing that investors like to see is that, number one, I think we need to see a simplification of the tax code. A lot of the incentives...
Simplification of the tax code.
Yeah. A lot of our investors come in and says, oh, look, I'm looking for investments. But where do I start? Like literally, where do I start? Do I go to this agency? That agency is being pushed to another agency. And it goes through the whole thing. You compare to the likes of other organizations or other countries where it's a very straightforward, let's do this.
Right.
That's one thing. And number two is that let's make our tax code a lot more straightforward and easy to digest. We are in this realm of how to do and what to do. And that's something that we can address. Because, like it or not, Malaysia has a good product. Our hardware is very good. We've got the best infrastructure, we've got good ports, we've got good airports, we've got a good thing. We've got a good supply chain and also human capital. But the look and feel of Malaysia, if that's a word I can use, can be improved and should be improved upon. Because we have a very good product to offer. And we have to change people's perception to say that it's not about, oh, this is Malaysia, but what Malaysia can offer and should offer.
Right. I'd like to stop you here to talk about, when you talk about us as a product, the choice of words we use surrounding this. So for the longest time, we've been known as a developing nation.
Yeah.
And that's not good for messaging when it comes to business. Now, in your opening statement, you talked about Vietnam and all the other countries within ASEAN, moving leaps and bounds ahead of us. And I think having said that, we need to move into what Nordin also wants to talk about, which is regional competitiveness in light of trade and investment. Seeing what he said and what you want to talk about.
Exactly, it's highly related. I mean, now actually Malaysia is competing far more with the regional economies. At the same time, we've got to have a complementary strategy. How do we plug into the Vietnamese economy? How do we plug into the Thai or the Singapore economy? But how do we then focus? We don't need to do what Vietnam does. We don't need to do what Singapore does. Or we may not, because we may not have that particular type of resource. So actually now, when you start to evolve the economy past the quote-unquote developing nation status, you actually need to focus and become specialized.
Yep.
And with that specialization, that's when you'll start to see higher returns for certain investors, simply because Malaysia says, oh, we're good at this. The people, the human capital, and especially is going to be around human capital.
Always.
And that expertise and that ability to offer to the global market the best human capital at the best price,
Right.
that is going to solve the high income equation that we need to get to.
I think when we talk about human capital, Malaysia is, I think, one of the few countries, say apart from, say, Singapore, that we are trilingual. You know, we speak Malay, we speak English, we speak our own mother tongue. And that is something that we should capitalize on. And at the same time also, we've got a very good, I would say, legal system, a very good governance structure. We need to take that on. I think the word complementary is very important here, because we are not the miners, we are not the refiners of the world. And neither are we the heavy laborers of the world. But we do things, we do precision manufacturing well, we do silicon well. How do we plug it in so that everyone benefits from it?
Right.
The pie is big enough for all of us.
Okay, so if the pie is big enough, and if you say there's a need for us to plug in, now, in light of what he just said, Malaysia's regional competitiveness for trade and investment, what would be the fastest thing we can jump on and say, okay, we're going to do this in the next year? We need to be a bit more focused. I think we're a bit all over the place. We've got great ideas, but I think we're fanning out a bit too much. We need to pick something and chase that down. Do you think so?
Well, I agree. Actually, for me, even from a business perspective, it's all about cash flow in that sense. And where's the quickest way to quick cash for an economy? If you ask me, is the tourism sector.
Yeah.
You know, we need to fill up the hotels, we need to fill up the resorts, we need to fill up our conference facilities. So that brings people into the market, that brings a lot of cash into the market. It'll have a positive impact on the ringgit, but at the same time, you will see activity. And again, when you go back to that confidence idea, you know, you see, oh, there's a lot of things happening, because the hotels are full, the shopping centers are full. If you ask me, the shopping centers are full now with Malaysian shopping. So you can't tell me there's some kind of,
and any shopping center is full.
You know, you choose the shopping center, it's full. But now with that influx of direct cash into the system, a lot more employment will be required. You will see that come up and cash into the system very quickly. Then you need to start to look, because some of these big investments, you're talking about $250 billion numbers. You know, you're talking about let's say a factory that's $1-2 billion US dollars. It's going to take you 2 or 3 years to get this thing up and running, just before you even turn on the first light.
Right. I really have, you have something to add to it?
Yeah, I know. Actually, talk about tourism. Tourism is the main thing. You know, my office is in a hotel. Hotel's full. Like, you know, now with, I think, the recent India and China visa-free travel, a lot more people are coming in. We're seeing a lot more. But I think one thing that we can plug in also is into the services sector, especially in terms of the service support sector. You know, we've got multitudes. We've got a good amount of accountants, good amount of engineers in the country. We can be I would say we can be the value-adding center for Malaysia that we are now, and there's more that can be done on that matter.
Right. I'd like to move into something a little bit thorny. I don't like talking about this. I like talking about this because it's our pastime here in Malaysia. Freedom, equality, and justice for all. So there was an article out in the Stan. I looked at it and we keep talking about this all the time, but I think the amount of talking about equality and justice for all, I think these things need to be kept in Parliament more than outside of Parliament, because I see a lot of imbalance there. You know, I feel that when we're talking about racism, things like this, you know, I mean, the speaker had to say, guys, you really need to know how to speak in Parliament. When you come to Parliament, you need to bring problems to Parliament, and we need to debate. You're a debater, you know this, right? And you need to talk about these things, not politicize things. Now, in keeping with the spirit of this being the year end and this being the unity government's 1 year, I had a look at a video yesterday. Dato' Madius Tangau, he put a video out and talked about, everyone's talking about this land belongs to certain people, this land belongs to certain people. And he says you need to not forget that Sabah and Sarawak makes up 60% of the Malaysia we know today,
Yeah.
or Malaysia Baru.
Well, Malaysia wouldn't exist without Sabah and Sarawak.
There was no Malaysia before that. It's Malaya.
Right. So my problem is, I guess, with all this talk happening, the spillover of the talk in Parliament with regards to you are not this, I'm not you, he's not me, is coming out into our workplaces where I speak, when I walk, where I work, when I walk outside these doors, I hear that all the time, and that needs to change.
Well,
we live to change from up top.
Yeah, I mean, we live in the age of crisis.
Yeah.
Everything can be weaponized, and everything will be weaponized. So you can take a 30-second soundbite and turn it into a 10-minute YouTube video that gets shared out to 1 million people. So why? Because you're trying to push your particular agenda. When we start to think about what's best for the country and what's best for the individual, and now you're starting to get into the question of collective benefits as opposed to individual benefits, you start to realize, am I doing what's best for the country? Doesn't matter what race you are. Are you doing something for the country? When you're out on the football field, or the rugby field, or playing cricket, as I like to do, you kick the ball to your friend. You're not going to check what race he is, whether he's going to kick it back. So it's about scoring goals. And now the government has put in place a set of goals. Now we need to play as a team. If you don't play as a team, the other teams are playing as a team. You will lose.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate reality. So we are competing globally. If we can't get the domestic equation right, we will get it wrong. And when we get it wrong, we miss the opportunity to score goals. So it's all about teamwork.
Your thoughts on this, Kishan?
I think we realize that...
And it affects the business world, the world you're in.
Yeah,
very much.
It does. I think we say that the average Malaysian doesn't see that I'm that and let's all this thing. I think a lot of it is being weaponized. You're working up with sentiment. But the average Malaysian says that I've got to put food on my table. I want to grow the economy. It's, we are all under the same flag. But what needs to be done is that cohesiveness.
Right.
I feel that promotion of cohesiveness needs to be out there so we are able to know what is our common goal and objective. And that's what the unity government's been trying to do. But I feel that more can be done so we know the common goal and objective.
Which brings me to what you want to talk about, resilience and how we have withstood every crisis thrown at us since 2023.
Yeah,
since the early this year.
Exactly. I mean, the fact is we're here. And the fact the government has been resilient enough to get us to where we are today. If you look around the world, there's a lot going on. In Malaysia, you can go down to whether you like to go and have your cappuccino or whether you like to go and have your teh tarik. It's all available, and we can go and do it in a very peaceful manner. This is testimony to the resilience of the country, and the fact that government has been able to form a unity government without a drop of blood being shed.
Without any backlash.
This is actually an achievement that all Malaysians have actually done. And I always like to bring attention to this in terms of understanding, because actually we take it for granted. It's something that we take for granted, and you can jump on a plane and not even 2 hours from here, there's conflict going on. Don't even talk about what's going on in the Middle East or in Eastern Europe. So when you start to build a resilient society, and understand some of these issues that are being weaponized now, they're being weaponized so that in the next election, someone will vote a certain way. But guess what? That's 4 years away from now. This is not going to do you any favors in terms of getting a job or getting new business. So we've got to think a little bit more pragmatically.
Right. So speaking about pragmatism, Malaysia is ahead in its sustainability journey, and the things we can do to capitalize on it. That's something you wanted to talk about also. So I mean, I don't see it. Maybe you can walk us through this.
So I think
being ahead.
Actually we are. So I can talk about our corporate journey. I think say in the corporate world, Bursa Malaysia has come out and said you've got to start reporting on certain indicators, right? So you've got about 9 indicators you've got to submit by the year end. And our government has been very proactive when it comes to promoting the sustainability agenda. Our net neutral target is 2050. We're going to go reduce our carbon emissions by 45% in 2030. And also with the recent COP28 summit, I think the YB Nick Nazmi has mentioned that he wants to get access to the defense fund that COP28 just came out with. So we are ahead in that aspect. You know, we've come out and said we have the RSPO with us. We've got targets for our forests. We are ahead in that, but more can be done. And it shouldn't be more of big words by big companies. It should be at the individual level.
And that's where the people lose it when we start using big words, when we start speaking, you know, talking about billions of dollars, big words. I think from the time we had this big case in the country with billions of dollars, you know, everyone's kind of sick of hearing, you know, billions being thrown around in conversations and big words. Yeah. So how to get past this whole big word issue, you know, that we have, we always need, we cannot look at something and say, okay, this is how it needs to be explained to people, because the stakeholders are the people who live in the country. If they understand, then maybe, you know, and you're a messaging man. Your thoughts on this?
Well, it's very simple. I mean, in terms of if you get the messaging wrong, and this is one of the things that I would like to see the government do more of, is continue down the path of continued and deeper communications, whether it is in English, in Malay, in Mandarin, in Tamil, but how much
Gujarati?
Anything. Or how much messaging is done in Iban and Kadazan languages and those other languages.
Right.
So actually, when you start to yes, we want everyone to speak the national language, but at the same time, sometimes you need to break it down, not into big words, into the words that people understand.
Right.
You have to communicate to people in words that they understand.
So I'm kind of into this whole thing about, you know, how we used to talk about us being a cultural melting pot. I think we're a cultural mosaic more than a melting pot. You know, every language has got its space in this swath of land, and that's how I see it. How do we capitalize on it now? Talking about messaging, when you talk about the business community, are we looking in Sabah and Sarawak, when we talk about the business community, how much do we engage with them? How much does Grant Thornton engage with them?
I think we do engage quite a bit with Sabah and Sarawak, but I would say that we are more of the exception more to the norm. The average person, the average business owner will say, why Sabah, why Sarawak? They've got their own business interests there. We engage with companies over there, we talk to them, but when we talk to other people, they were like, why? But they fail to realize that Sabah is the second biggest tourism market in Malaysia. Sarawak has the most amount of natural eco-resources.
Right.
Biggest renewable energy producer. We have to engage with Sabah and Sarawak more. You talk about engagement at the local level. I think the government needs to go down and says, how does this affect you individually at the local language, at the local level, so people are aware and what needs to be done. Malaysia is a cultural mosaic. That's not wrong. There's no model that's wrong. But let's play to that advantage so we can cater for what needs to be done.
Right. I'm going to have you have the last say. We've got a few minutes to go. I think we all can chip in on this one. World Human Rights Day happens on Sunday when we're celebrating the Unity Government's 1 year. Your thoughts on World Human Rights Day and what we need to be cognizant of as we come to the end of the year and look forward to another year.
Well, it's of course, you know, for many people it's a holiday season, and it's a time to sit back and reflect what happened this year and what we're going to do next year. And if we start to reflect on our humanity, I think it's going to, you know, again, it comes down to what have we done, and what will we be doing for. It's almost like, you know, don't ask what you can do, what your country will do for you, but ask what you will do for your country. So why don't we take a humanistic approach to that? Sorry, I'm just
humanistic
approach to that, and say, look, we're going to, you know, me as an individual, I'm going to do something for the country.
Right, Kishan. I think 1 minute, Kishan.
All right, the timer starts. Malaysians have always been altruistic, and let's continue being altruistic. I think, like Nordin said, we're coming to the end of the year. Think of the people around you. Think of who has, you know, served you coffee or tea in a restaurant, all the way to a person manufacturing your goods. We all have a part to play, so let's make all our lives better.
Right. On that note, I'd like to thank both you guys for coming in, Nordin and also Kishan. Thank you very much for joining us. We'd like to thank you for being with us. Don't forget, that the government celebrates its 1-year anniversary this Sunday. Big things happening in Kuala Lumpur. We'll be bringing you that feed live right here on Bernama TV. I'm Jared Rotman signing off. You have a great weekend, and we'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.